So it's great to be back with you with another episode of the podcast. And this week I wanted to talk about a point that's pretty much a fundamental element and is the most important element around sales and selling. And that's why do people buy things? So in this episode, we're just going to talk about why they buy and what you can learn as a business and salesperson that can, if you apply these principles, can tap into the world of your buyer to know why they're buying something. And the starting point of this, and I'd actually encourage you to think about something right now that you've last bought. And if I encourage you to think, maybe write down, maybe pause the podcast for a moment and just write down what you bought last. And obviously it will depend. Let's say that if it was you bought lunch yesterday, it's probably because you were hungry. But if it was something you bought over, let's say, £100, and I'm going to give you an example of it. I bought a course 2 days ago over £100. Okay, it was £118 for a course. I was investing in my own learning. I try and do a lot. But why did I buy it? Why did I do that? And there are only two main reasons. There are two main reasons why people will buy anything, but there are a couple of other subsidiary reasons underneath that. And the reason I bought that course was because it's a course based upon creating better newsletters, and I subscribed to the course because there's a lady that had a newsletter. I loved her content, and she was doing this course for 2 hours, and I was like, yeah, I want to attend that course. And it was £118 for 2 hours on Thursday evening. I'm going to listen and watch and involve in the course, and I'm going to take part of it. And why? Because she shared with me a story around how she's created a newsletter. I've had my newsletter. It's been going a long time. I'm happy with it, but I want it to get better. So I want it to be better. I want to achieve more of it. I have a desire for that thing that I have to be better. And so I bought this course because I want to learn to make my situation better and move from my current position where I am right now to a better place. So the first reason why people buy is that they have a desire to change. Why do people buy a PT service? Because they want to lose weight or they want to look better in the mirror. Why do people want to go on holiday? Because they want to experience great times. That desire to do something is really important. To want to achieve something is a really important factor. And our job as sales and business people is to tap into the reasons why someone wants to buy, and their desire is important. Now, in sales, there's lots of times people talk about a need. Oh, you needed something. You needed something. But I don't think a need is as strong as a desire, a want. I don't need to go and get my teeth whitened, but if I was really vain, but I wanted to make myself look better, then I would. So your want or that desire is stronger. I didn't need to book this course. And by the way, the course I'll share with you in another couple of weeks whether it's making an impact. Hopefully it will, because the numbers will go up. But I didn't need to do it. It wasn't, but I absolutely wanted to do it. I wanted to grow. So the first thing is the desire that someone has to change their current position, whatever that current position is, to move to a new place. And the second reason why I think people will buy is because of a problem. And this is actually one of the areas where I talk to people a lot in sales and selling. The mistakes that people make is people try and sell to people that don't have a problem or a desire. And it's nigh on impossible to sell to any level of buyer, any person, if there's not a problem in their world or a desire, a want to get to it to another place. And if you are trying to do that and you cannot work out what the problems are for that audience and that person and how important those problems are, then you are going to struggle. And sometimes if you can combine the two, so if you, for example, let's say you've gone and bought a salad yesterday for lunch, and you wanted to, your problem was you're hungry and you wanted to be healthy, you buy the salad. Combine the two, great. In my case with the course that I bought, I want my newsletter, I want to provide a better newsletter. And you could say I've got a problem in the sense of my newsletter isn't got as many people on board as I want it to. Of course, it's more of one than the other, but the point being the two combined is great, but it has to be a problem that someone has. And generally problems will fall into three categories. The three categories generally tend to be what we call biological problems, i.e. someone's thirsty or they're warm or they're too cold and they want to solve that problem to obviously stay alive. They've got maybe a situational problem where they maybe are starting a new job, or there's something that they've been evicted from a house, or they've moved to a new location, whatever. There's a situational things that's caused that. Or they might have what we call an emotional problem. They're feeling down, they're feeling unhappy, they're feeling frustrated. Something's, or they're feeling, something's not right in their life. So when we know what the problem of our audience is and we understand that audience and we get to know them, we can do good business. But if we don't, and if they don't have that problem or that desire to change, it's so, I'd even say it's nearly impossible to sell something to someone. And I use this example a lot when I say to people, well, actually, if you imagine how many emails we get per day and how many conversations we have and all the things, we have all these thoughts that go through our head. But if someone came to you and said, buy my stuff, and it was something that you didn't want or you didn't have a problem with, more than likely you're going to say, no thanks, and put them off. And by the way, have a think, just pause the podcast for a couple of seconds and think back to when someone's tried to sell you stuff that wasn't relevant to you, wasn't interesting to you, didn't focus on a problem you've got, didn't make you want to achieve something, you're probably not going to do it. I've just been having a conversation with Darren, my brilliant podcast creator, around a thing on my arm. So if you're watching people say on my arm, I'm going to do a separate called a Whoop device. I want to learn about how my body is operating. I think my body is critical for the business, and health is wealth and what I'm doing. And this device helps me see where I'm recovering. It helps measure my strain. It helps measure my sleep. It helps measure my health. And so I want to be better informed about that so that I can be healthier and try and live the best life that I can, but also so that I can also see when I'm struggling what might be the causes of that. So I want to be in that position. Hence why I purchased a Whoop and have had a Whoop for a number of years. So we've either got to tap into that want or that desire that someone has got, or we've got to be in a position where we understand the problem we've got. And generally in business sales, and I'll be honest with you on this, in business to business sales, problems follow, money follows problems, okay? So in other words, if there are issues, that have got going on, people will find the money to solve the problem. Right now, when I'm recording this podcast, there's always seems to be in the UK political stories and issues, but right now there's a political issue around concrete in schools, and the government, the CFO of the country, the Chancellor was on the TV on Sunday saying, we'll spend whatever we need to do to fix it. They'll find the money, right? Because people follow the problems. And I bet if you're working with some of those organizations having these problems and you're a person saying your prices are a bit higher than before, they're probably still going to buy it because they've got a problem. The point is, people want to move away from problem situations. I go back to the dentist example. If you've got toothache, do you really want to, your toothache is deep pain for you, do you really want to wait literally 2 weeks to go and see someone? No. If someone's going to give you a service tomorrow that can solve that problem, you'll buy it even if it's a bit more expensive. Whereas if someone said you're going to get your teeth whitened because it was a nice desire, then you might wait a couple of weeks for that. So on average, 7 out of 10 people will move from a position of pain than a position of pleasure. And our job is, and pleasure being where they want to be. So it's our job to tap in and understand what the problem is or what the desire is. Now, there are some other reasons, again, why people will buy things. Sometimes people will feel they'll buy things because they want to feel seen or heard or understood. And there's a great story I share around, they want to feel important, for example. Again, it fits into an emotional, I would even argue it fits into an emotional problem they have, but they absolutely want to feel like people are listening to them. It's why people will spend money on high value cars or high value clothing, because they want to feel important. They want to feel seen. They want to feel understood. They want to feel important. I would argue, some might say I'm wrong, but I would argue that would indicate a problem that they've got in their world and their lifestyle. But that's another point. Sometimes people want to feel seen or heard. There are obviously some basic logical facts and reasons why people will buy things. So, for example, you might buy a ladder because you want to climb to the top of your house. You're going to buy a ladder because you can't get to the top of your house without a ladder. But I would even argue it's because you want to fix a problem on the roof, or because you want to put a new light up there because you want to be more secure. But the point being is there'll be a logical reason to do it, or there may be some emotional reasons to do it because you want to be able to show something to someone else, or to literally be in a position where you can feel great about something and feel empowered by something. People buy retreats to weekends away because they want to feel emotionally connected to things. There are reasons why you'll do it, but fundamentally, in my experience, it boils down to the two things: the problem that they've got and how big that problem is. There was a great phrase that someone said to me, I can't remember who it said to me the other day: hair on fire problems. So if you imagine that, or I've previously heard it called burning platforms. So if you imagine a platform that's burning and you're on that platform and you need to get off, you will spend what you need to do, because if you don't basically get off the platform, you fall into the abyss below. People will spend a lot of money to get off burning platforms or hair on fire situations, and they'll be in a position where if they've got a desire to go and grow and achieve something and hit a goal or a target they've planned, they'll go and invest in that. But if it's not one of those two things, I'll be honest with you, you ain't going to sell much to people. And you can knock on the door, you can try and kid them, you can try and give them emotional things and words to say. But fundamentally, if it's not one of those two things, you're going to have a challenge. So my message to you from today's podcast is this: just start thinking about the problems and desires. Sometimes it's called, I always talk about it, maybe heaven and hell is another way of describing it sometimes. Hell is the problem they don't want, or the issue. Heaven is the great place where they want to be. Another way of describing it is sometimes greed and fear, the greed of where they want to get to versus the fear of a problem. But it's in those camps, it's those ends that we want to be at. That's why people buy stuff. So whatever you're selling, whether it's business services, personal services, construction services, podcast services, laptops, phones, whatever it is, get yourself familiar with the problems and desires of your audience. When you tap into those, when you understand those, and really then start providing solutions to help people with those. And sometimes people don't know they've got problems, right? Sometimes they didn't know they've got these challenges. It's our job to educate them on those things and to tell people about what's happening and what might be going on. But when we do that, and when we make those things happen, and we bring to life how we can then solve those problems or help them achieve those things, when this course tells me how they're going to help me get a newsletter that has millions of subscribers, I'm going to think, wow, this is what I need to go and do to it. And it's going to inspire me to make that happen. But if you can't tap into the problem or desire, you're a bit cooked. So, hope that's helped you. Let me know in the comments below in the thoughts as to what you think. If you think I'm wrong, let me know as well. I deliver sales presentations everywhere, and I always challenge every audience. If you think I'm wrong, if you think it's something different that causes people to buy, let me know. I'd love you to challenge me, prove I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. Tell me that someone buys something not because of a problem or desire. Let me know. I'll be happy to have that conversation with you. But I always finish the podcast on an inspirational story. And I wanted to talk again. By the way, these stories now I've been having sent in. There's some stories I've heard, but I've asked people to send me some stories in. And this one again comes from a guy called Joe Simpson, it's called Touching the Void is his book. And in 1985, Joe and a guy called Simon Yates became the first people to scale the west face of a massive mountain called the Sierra Grande in the Andes. And it became a triumph when Joe Simpson plunged down an ice cliff and he shattered his leg. And basically, the story goes that as night fell and with storm closing in, they were forced to continue in the dark with just 45 minutes as a rope and no means of communicating. So basically, this guy had to get down off a cliff with his colleagues, hung on for more than an hour. They were literally leaning over this cliff, and literally they had to make this decision as to whether they were going to cut the rope or whether they were going to survive. And they survived, and 4 days later they crawled to this base camp and they got through this difficult situation. And he kept on saying to himself, "Don't fall here." And he basically said that the guy he was with, this guy Simon Yates, that they were, he'd broken his ankle, but this guy helped save him. But they both survived the situation. And he, as he goes back, he said he never got angry. He said the experience changed him and made him realize that life is full of challenges and life is for challenges. So I guess my question to you is, again, whatever you're going through today, whatever the things you're feeling, is it like what Joe had in Touching the Void? Probably not. Life is a challenge. It's part of the reason why I wake up every day and go, hey, what's the challenge going to throw at me? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to deal with when it comes. Try and solve and put myself in a position where the challenges don't happen, but the roller coaster is still going to go. I'm going to enjoy the ups and not get too bothered by the downs. Be in the same position, go and do what you need to do, keep smiling, keep focusing on the positives. And if you do that, you're going to be in a great position to achieve what you want to. But I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. I hope you've given some insights into why people buy anything. It's due to the problem or the desire. Make sure you tap into that and you'll be in a great place. See you next week.